don't use the word bullshit to mean anything other than literal bullshit. If you see literal bullshit, it's okay to say that's bullshit. If you step in literal bullshit, it's okay to say that's bullshit. If you smell literal bullshit, it's okay to say that's bullshit. It's okay to call feces from bulls bullshits. But if you hear senseless talk or read senseless writing, please don't say bullshit. I am inviting you to say balderdash instead, so that speciesist language is not spread. The stuff that falls out of a bull's ass after they've digested a bunch of grass is not for us to use as a negative word. No speciesist language should be heard. Balderdash means senseless talk or writing. Avoiding speciesist language is exciting. Saying balderdash may feel strange at first, but using speciesist language is the worst. Using bullshit to mean nonsense is disrespectful. You may slip up if you are neglectful, but go back to being anti-speciesist again. Use balderdash when you speak or write with a pen. If people test on animals and give them a rash, so unethical companies can make a lot of cash, and you speak up and receive a backlash, don't say this is bullshit, say this is balderdash. If you feel stressed out and want potatoes to mash, but have no money because paying bills took your whole stash, then the landlord raises the rent cause he wants more cash, don't say this is bullshit, say this is balderdash. If planet Earth is getting covered in trash, and the forests are burning and spreading ash, and every day species get wiped out in a flash, don't say this is bullshit, say this is balderdash. If you're in a pandemic and the guy is too brash to put a mask over his mustache, and you speak up and he gives you a gash, don't say this is bullshit, say this is balderdash. If someone calls your buddy white trash, and that old reverse racism gets a rehash, and you roll your eyes and feel a stray eyelash, don't say this is bullshit, say this is balderdash. If you're protesting to make the patriarchy smash, and fascists come to make a clash, and they grab your sign and give it a slash, don't say this is bullshit, say this is balderdash. If you're liberating animals and make a dash, and you pause for a rest under a mountain ash, and an oppressor threatens to give you a lash, don't say this is bullshit, say this is balderdash. If your parents say you can't listen to thrash, and the water is polluted so you can't make a splash, and someone drives drunk and you get in a crash, don't say this is bullshit, say this is balderdash. Donald Trump, I don't hate you even when I disagree with what you do. When I wonder about your views, I try to put myself into your shoes. You learned from what your parents said, and from many other people alive and dead. You were not self-made, nobody is. Without help, no one can run a biz. I saw a movie made to revive discussions about the Central Park 5. Trump, you called for the death penalty, said the boys police bully don't deserve to be. Will you please apologize for hurting people and spreading lies? It is time to do what's right. Justice for all, please join the fight. Obama ended his presidency by granting many people clemency. Now it's your turn. Make a plan to free as many people as you can. It's never too late to do something good. Help people in every neighborhood. We are one all around the world. America first, get the slogan hurled. You said cigarettes, so watch a movie and chill. But we need to end the system that continues to kill. The US way of life ain't sustainable. Green capitalism ain't obtainable. You said US will never be socialist. Sounds like the rant of a chauvinist. Sharing resources is the very best way. Bring on the matriarchy today. We all know the only way to become rich is by oppressing people. Time to make a switch to a system where we can achieve equity. No more billionaires in this or any other country. I read your grandfather is from Germany, where people have issued an apology for the terror carried out by the Hitler regime. Make apologizing part of the American dream. The US has a lot of apologizing to do for slavery, genocide, imperialism too. Reparations need to get paid without delay to black and indigenous people today. Nationalism is a disease. What's the cure? How can we end borders and make sure all people in the world have their needs met? We are all one, let us not forget. Make America great again? Don't say that. Please don't wear those ugly words on a hat. America never was great, built on oppression. Make anti-capitalism your new obsession. Capitalism is organized crime. No more oppressing people to make a dime. The time for total liberation is now. Can we all get along? Let's figure out how. I think having precedence is asking for trouble. Learn about anarchy, step outside of your bubble. While you're at it, learn about communism too. Step outside of your comfort zone, learn something new. Be anti-fascist, anti-racist too. Speaking out against oppression is the right thing to do. Imagine a world where no one is in a cage. When it comes to liberation, let's get on the same page.
Man, those were some dank jams, guys. What is that fruity guy talking about? Always up to something, that Sakers. But guys, we got something. We got something that's probably going to be so stupid, right? But we're going to watch it anyway. Maybe we'll learn something, guys, about the Mandela effect and such. Let's see, guys. Oh, the Chatamabob works? Man, today's my day, huh? Let's go. Cynthia Sue Larson of the hot dog family, guys. Whoa! It's going to be great, guys. If you don't know, the Mandela effect is when a bunch of retards forget something and then remember it differently 20 years later and say, oh no, the timelines are changing.
Well, hello, everyone. For those who do not know, my name is Jerry Hicks. I am Dark Wolf's alter ego.
It's Dark Wolf's alter ego, guys.
I don't have any fancy PhDs to flaunt in front of you. That I do.
Of course not.
Apologize for. However, I have been a paranormal researcher for over 25 years.
Well, that's all you need.
Now, before we do bring out our keynote speaker, I would like to say a few words.
Please
You know why
don't.
it is so very important that you're here right now? I bet no one in
Sir, have you been drinking? Look at that guy.
this room really knows the answer to that. It's because of the solidarity that we all feel as affected people. Every one of us has dealt with this. We've lost family, friends, co-workers, businesses, wives, husbands.
Puppums.
All of us has dealt with this somehow in the Mandela effect. So we all know exactly what it feels like.
The Mandeller effect.
Just believing our memories and not giving in to the reality that we're presented with.
You don't need fancy education when you just make shit up.
I've heard a lot of talk here as I've been the last couple of days enjoying meeting the speakers and all you attendees and the ones that I haven't had a chance to sit down with. And I've heard a lot about mystery schools. And you know, we are like a modern version of the old mystery schools.
They just watch old episodes of Columbo.
It's not like we're hiding our information. Lord knows we try to tell people, but we get the craziest answers. We get those weird stares. They'll just stare off into space. And then they'll come back and read you the entire wiki page, word for word. The strange reaction people give are just, it really kind of turns us off from wanting to tell people, or they tell us we're crazy or insane.
Not you, Dark Wolf. You're not insane.
Us because we refuse to deny what
So
we
I'm
know
over here
is true.
living my best life.
I thought the Mandela effect was when a jogger blew out some white girl's bungalow.
You've been talking to Ursula again. What did I tell you about that? Thank you.
We've all learned our lesson with that, I'm sure. So we're not hiding the information. People are hiding it from themselves. Personally, as a few of you have heard me say already, I think we're more like the UFO community.
Yeah,
and the reason I say that,
UFO community.
When they began, they were told everything they were looking into was crazy, and they should stop. And my favorite, that's impossible. That can't happen.
Nothing's impossible when Dark
up,
Wolf is around.
Why? Because they knew something that other people did not know and refused to not look at it. They refused to turn the other cheek and just not even pay attention to what was going on or what they experienced themselves. To those people who had witnessed a UFO or an abduction event, to those people, it's as real as me standing here talking to you guys right now. There's no difference. Just as real as
pendant
that we know the Berenstain Bears had an E. Or whatever.
Berenstain Bears never had an E, motherfucker.
Mandela effect that gets you.
Never had an E.
The Berenstain shirt, I like that. Year in and year out, the government and the media would paint them in a horrible light.
Yeah.
They would call them conspiracy theorists, tinfoil hat kooks, or flat out be called delusional by some and crazy by others.
You're not delusional or crazy, Dark Wolf.
Year after year, they would meet together to share their experiences,
it's a very nice
share
shirt.
their evidences, and prove that what they were saying was true. After 8 decades, they are finally being vindicated by both our government and the media. But of course, this isn't about UFOs, is it? This is about the Mandela effect. So what does that have to do with the first question that I asked?
Uh-oh.
Well, aren't we all told the same things, that we're crazy or conspiracy theorists?
You look crazy. If someone said, what do you picture a crazy guy looking like? It would look like this guy.
Or again, my favorite, that's impossible. The reason it's so important that you guys take part in this weekend is because you have a chance to be in the company of those who see the world a lot like you do. We might not all agree on the same effects, but we can all agree that something supernatural is going on.
Whoa.
And we can't explain it with logic and science as it is today.
Science is awesome.
Though some of my speakers might beg to differ on that. But even more.
See, I have this memory burned in my brain when I was like a real little feller in a doctor's office, like 6 or something, saying, "Why is there an A?" You know what I mean? Like it didn't make sense.
More importantly,
so I know at least in the 80s, it was still Berenstain Bears.
Those who were desperate to come to this event and were not able to. So the ones that are here are extremely lucky.
See, punk rock
and
knows.
We're so very thankful to have each and every one of you. So whether you are at home, part of the community, or here, you are all a representative of this community.
Oh, wow. We're part
and
of a group.
And as such, you should wear that like a badge of honor.
Yeah, because I remember being really young going, what the fuck? Why is there an A there? Should be an E.
In my opinion. You represent those in this world who see that something is wrong and have had no one with whom they could talk to about it. So please, thoroughly enjoy all that we have to offer this weekend.
Thanks, bro.
And know that for at least a few days, you are not alone in this reality. Thank you.
That's an untruthitude. There's 3 people there. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right, ladies and gentlemen,
Capacity
our keynote speaker this evening knows more about this than probably anybody in this room. She has studied the...
No, I'm in your dimension, Jeff, and I'm not going anywhere.
effects of time manipulation, time travel, time vortexes, and all the things dealing with time for probably 20 plus years, correct? Yes, ma'am. She's the best-selling author of 6 books who helps people visualize and access whole new worlds of possibility. She hosts Living the Quantum Dream on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. She's been featured on the Discovery Channel, the History Channel, Coast to Coast AM, and The Beat.
I think almost everyone has been on History Channel or Discovery Channel at this point.
BC. She's presented papers at
I saw Banana on TLC last week.
National conferences on science, spirituality, and consciousness. As an organizer, she's also been an instrumental part of pulling together this amazing conference for you guys. Since 1999, she has shared findings from scientific research in the fields of quantum physics, quantum biology, the placebo effect, positive psychology, sociology,
Go back to
and
your dimension
alternative
negative.
medicine. Her articles have appeared in journals ranging from Cosmos and History to Magical Blend and Parabola.
That's true.
Results from her Do You Reality Shift surveys conducted in 2000 and June of 2013 document incidents of the most commonly experienced types of reality shifts.
Oh, shit.
And her Reality Shifters website has compiled one of the most extensive collection of reality shift reports in the entire world.
Everything's
Her
about grifting
e-zine,
and
Reality
porking
Shifters, is eagerly awaited each month by thousands of subscribers worldwide. She has a degree in physics from UC Berkeley, an MBA degree, and a Doctor of Divinity. She reminds us to ask in every situation, how good can it get? Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for our keynote speaker, Miss Cynthia Sue Larson.
Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
There she is, guys. Oh, what a treat.
Should we get this one?
She might have a black belt.
Okay. Thank you so much. Such an honor to be here, and thank
That's crazy cat lady supreme right there.
you, Jerry, for having the dream to make this come true. So when Jerry invited me to be part of this,
There's a cat hiding in her hair right now.
Overwhelmed with this feeling of, wow, this is finally happening. We have reached a tipping point in the world, really, where this topic has come to the forefront for a lot of people. And many of us who are here today have come, as Jerry said, a long way. And he has, I have as well. So my talk, the title is The Science and History of Reality Shifts and Mandela Effects.
Oh, shit, guys. I hope you guys got notes. You're taking notes. Pen and paper. Now.
But I'll be starting by talking very much about my own worldview from...
Come here, real metal goats. Huge. What a treat. Lucky fuck.
My own perspective. Each of us has a very individual experience of reality. It's very subjective, in contrast to what modern science would have you believe, that there's one objective physical truth in reality. That's a philosophy. That's not really what science should be all about. So I'll be telling you a little bit about my background. As Jerry pointed out, some of my curricula here is on this visual. I was born aware, which simply means that I remembered a blissful state of conscious, pure essence before I was born. It was so good, I really didn't want to be here. That's how good it is. I mean, it is amazing.
Okay, lady. she got a degree.
So do I believe in heaven? Yes, I really do. So I came in that way, and as you might imagine, being here is a shock. It's absolutely a shock. It's hard to be here. It was for me as a young child. I'm not going to talk too much about that. I'm just going to keep moving on.
Yeah, please don't.
I mean, I've been working on this field for so long, but I want you to know that I come from a sort of a different perspective, if you want to look at it that way. I've got the degrees that Jerry mentioned, a physics degree from UC Berkeley.
Should be rolling around in a
I've got physicists who are still there, who know about my work, and privately are thrilled with it and really understand it. Publicly, it's still hard to come forward and acknowledge that some of these things are actually happening.
Cool.
I'm talking world famous theoretical physicists.
Hanford.
I had a Kundalini experience in 1994 when I was 32 years old, and that absolutely woke me up to a level of not being able to discount and dismiss
married woman, are you, Cynthia?
a lot of what I know to be true. So that was the year that if I want to look at a point where things really changed for me, that was the year where I felt like, okay, I have to be a lot more public.
Living my best life.
She is so right. I porked her in another dimension several times.
Are you saying you porked her so hard she went into another dimension? Did you pork her into Dimension X? On top of the Technodrome,
I've ever
dude.
been up to that point. about what I know the nature of reality to be. I've written the books that were mentioned, published the newsletter. I've been creating YouTube videos since 2009.
She still owes $600,000.
I've been helping to organize and run Foundations of Mind scientific conferences since 2014, and so forth. Okay. This is the key points of
We're just starting, Uncle Ted. It's all good.
But first, there's a cartoon. There's a woman, I think it's a woman doing the laundry. She says, "Where did all these extra socks come from?" And the caption underneath says, "Meanwhile, in a parallel universe." So this is where the field was when I started in it 20 years ago. It was sort of a joke, like, where do the socks go? And, you know, how come I put my keys down and they're not where I thought I put them? That kind of thing.
What a party.
So
I wish I was
talking about my
invited.
life with reality shifts.
How come I never get invited to cool shit like this?
Talking about the Mandela effect overview, talking about what's going on, which this is a whole weekend that we'll get to look at that, and talking about quantum phenomena, an overview, and then quantum logic and processes.
I watched one video once where a guy said proof of the Mandela effect is that every character on Gilligan's Island had green eyes. How does that correlate? I don't know, but he made a very good case.
So this is a picture of me when I was very young,
Oh,
about 3 years old. So I'm going to start, as I mentioned, I came in blissed out with this feeling of heaven, basically. The person who got me the most and understood that was my grandmother, a devout Lutheran. And when she passed away, the minister said, "I've never met anyone with more faith than she had." And thank God for her, because that really gave me a grounding, a rootedness to be able to do all I've been doing so far. Just the knowledge that God is real.
You know she likes that boxed wine. Poor lady.
But I was raised by an atheist, so that's okay too. You know, I don't have anything against any religion or any spiritual path. So when I was very young, about age 5, I envisioned reality as a web of consciousness. And I saw that I was here to help with the raising of that. I've got a picture of a cobweb there with dewdrops. It kind of looked like that. I didn't know about Indra's web, but that's pretty much what it looks like.
She better have a picture of her in a karate suit.
And then about the same time, I was 5 years old, I noticed that I was getting very strong mind-matter intervention kind of things going on. So I could watch it raining, and I could think, stop rain, it would stop. I could think, start, it would start. I had the innocence of a child, the purity of heart. And just
she had amazing rain-stopping powers, guys. Do you?
And I would get instantaneous effects in nature all the time. When I was young, I showed my mother. I said, I thought, this is so cool. I want to show someone. So I got my mom. I said, come and take a look at this. And then the effect stopped. And that's when
Nice one.
I mean, it was hard to be on this planet, frankly, when you've got that kind of purity of heart. But thank goodness for this Mandela effect community. Because what I'm saying is a lot of us are coming to this point now where we're starting to get those kind of effects.
Best you can.
Other things that I would do after I went private with it, no more telling people about it.
She also got evicted for spray painting indoors.
It's like if the car didn't start, that's a picture of the car we had. It's an old Chevrolet. That's a TV console like the one we had. And these things would go on the fritz and break down rather often compared to what things do nowadays.
It was her mind powers.
But I could just love whatever it was very much and hear the sound of the engine starting, it would start. Or my dad was working with the tubes inside the tube television. And when he starts swearing, it's like, okay, things are getting bad. I better just feel how much I love that television, and then it would work. But if I didn't say anything. So I was not talking about this.
Everyone's drunk in this place.
My family traveled all the time. We would go to places where they'd never seen white people before. That's a very big part of my life. So I was constantly going around the world to sacred sites.
And getting raped.
Where I could feel the energy, and I was getting the benefit of it and seeing amazing things. This trip, I'm just highlighting it here, in the 1970s, we were in Kashmir, staying on a housebboat in Dal Lake. It was so beautiful. And my parents had purchased some custom-made furniture, such as what you see there. And I heard them promise, the wood carvers, when we finished building the new house we're building.
Yeah, I was just thinking, no one fixed their own TVs back then.
Pictures of the furniture in the beautiful library that they're building and send it back. So I thought, cool, that's nice of them to promise that. So they finished building the house, built the library, put the furniture in, And I kept waiting, when are they going to take the pictures and send it back to the wood carvers? And then I couldn't stand it anymore. I had to ask them, well, when are you going to take the
Mandela
pictures?
effect now, please.
They said, what pictures? And I said, the ones you promised to the wood carvers that you take. We never made any promise like that. And my parents weren't lying, but that was a real amazing moment for me to see. We've got two very different histories. I didn't argue or press the point, but I thought, wow, this is big.
It's
Another
huge.
big one for me in the 70s. When I was a teenager, I heard a radio announcer on a pop radio station announce, now we're going to play a brand new song that we've never played before.
But I knew the words. I knew the words with my psychic powers.
I thought, oh, cool. And then I heard it, and it was something I was so sick of hearing because I'd heard it so many times. And I thought, there's something wrong with me, or maybe I'm confused. I don't know the name of the song because it's so long ago now, but I did ask my sister and my best friends.
It was Man Boobs by the legendary Joe Ted.
To them, it was a new song. They didn't know what I was talking about. But these are early experiences. I had an experience of meeting my future self in my bedroom one night.
And then I asked myself, why so many cats?
She just walked out of the floor-to-ceiling mirrors, my closet mirrors, and walked across
This bitch is fucking crazy.
the room, telepathically communicating with me. But I spoke out loud. To the point that my father came to check
Well, it
on
might have
me
been.
'cause he heard me
Might have been
talking
in your dimension, punk rock.
to someone. What she did is she walked
Praise
over to my
Lord,
desk,
magic.
opened the lower left drawer, removed something, closed the drawer, talked to me some more. I'm talking to her, and she left. And then my dad came in, what's going on? I didn't know what to say. I thought I was dreaming, like, this is too weird. And so the next morning, I checked my dresser, and there were some letters missing. And I accused my sister of having stolen them.
That bitch.
And she got very upset, like I didn't steal them. So that was interesting. To this day, I've not yet gone back in time to my knowledge and retrieved those letters.
Any day now.
But it's just interesting. So I've had some interesting experiences. This is my first alive again experience was with my roommate's cat. He was Ashes, and I was living with Ashes and Catherine on Cedar Street in Berkeley in an apartment. I moved across the street to a new apartment, and this kitty cat would come and visit me. And one day...
And I just had to get another and another and another.
My old roommate Catherine told me some bad news, that Ashes had been hit by a car and died.
No!
And so that was terrible. I felt like I hadn't really said goodbye, and it was too soon to lose him. You know, when you become attached to a beloved pet. And he felt like my pet. He was part of the family when I lived there. But then a while later, he visited me in the garden across the street. It was definitely him.
Ghost
He was a little
push-ums.
greasy, kind of like he wasn't washing too well, but it was him. And that was pretty amazing.
You know, most cats look alike, right? It was totally him.
I've had an interesting experience with time. I'm kind of doing highlights of some bizarre experiences that I've had that I know are real. And then we'll get into the Mandela effect.
Yeah,
this
please.
one was where time came to a stop. This is the summer of 1991. I was living in Lausanne, Switzerland. And we're living there for about 9 months. The train station has a very hard floor.
I've had some reality shifts. One time I went to bed knowing that there was a Pop-Tart waiting for me. And I got up and the Pop-Tart was gone, guys. It was gone.
Kind of like marble. And the ladies dress elegantly.
I still
They're
wake
often
up in the middle of the night
wearing
thinking
high
about
heels.
that.
So you can hear that click, click, click on the floor. My daughter was traveling on my husband's shoulders. He was not holding on to her legs like usual because he had his suitcase and her suitcase. She was holding on to his hair until she let go and started flapping her hands like this and started arching her back and going backwards.
No!
At that point, it was terrifying for me. I also had heavy suitcase, but I was about 6 feet behind them. So what I did is,
magic powers.
You know, when you're a mother, there's nothing you can do at that point. I just wanted to catch her in my arms. That's what I pictured. What happened next was I heard the sounds of the train station just drop. It went from the click, 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 high-pitched noise, went to ooh, just like low.
Whoa.
As everything slowed
And then she started
down,
twerking.
including her falling.
That's
And I could
right.
move at regular
Consumed by
speed and
reptilians.
catch her.
Curse
And
no
it was
Pop-Tart
extraordinary.
dimension.
And I know that happened. That wasn't me imagining that time slowed to a stop. That happened.
No. What are you, Max Payne now? You are not Max Payne.
Okay, now this is really cool. This is definitely very much like the Mandela effects we're seeing today. This was 1994, and I went to a conference. This was in London, England, and it wasn't my conference, it was my husband's conference, and he was talking about software that he was designing.
Two carnies.
But what was interesting is, on the program, there was going to be a speaker from an architectural firm called Whateva.
I remember that.
And I noticed that because it was one of the biggest architectural firms in London, and that was exciting. But then at the break, the presenter was no longer on the program at all.
She's delightful, Cave. How could you say this? I love you, Cave. Huge. That's right, shit, bullet time. The game Fear is based off her life.
Completely vanished. And I checked with my husband, don't you remember there was someone supposed to be here from Whateva? And my husband said yes. His first name was Steve. I can't remember the last name because it just vanished. Suddenly he was no longer on the program. Nobody from that architectural firm was. And here's one of my first celebrities that was alive again.
What?
I mentioned this one in my book, Reality Shifts. This is Larry Hagman. You know him from I Dream of Jeannie and from Dallas. And what I saw was he'd passed away back around 1997. But then he was alive again in just the next year. And I know that for sure. But this is, again, remember, this is before we had this community on the internet where you could talk about these things. And so it was just one of those weird things like, well, there's another one. This is very strange. So I've also, just in the realm of strange paranormal, I have been witnessed bilocating on a couple of occasions. And from my point of view, I was daydreaming. On one occasion, it was a cold morning.
All right, enough about you, lady.
House.
No one cares.
And I usually would wake my daughters up when they were very young.
But
that morning, I thought, it's so cold, I'm just going to stay in bed for a little bit more. And the other time was when I was feeling cooped up indoors at a book event. So here's a picture of my daughters in their bedroom. This was in the 1990s.
Poor kids.
And this
Never
is
had
when
a
they were
chance.
awake. So I was daydreaming that I'm just going to, it's kind of like you think you're going to do it and you're going to will yourself to get up, but instead of sort of walking down the hall.
Uncle Ted, retards need conferences too, okay?
Flipping on their light. I'm opening their heavy curtain in their room that they can't lift. But then a few minutes later, after daydreaming this, my daughters came, I could hear them running down the hall to me. And they said, what are you doing back in bed? I said, what do you mean? And they said, why are you back in bed? They just didn't understand it. And I said, well, who woke you up? You did. I'm like, what? Then I'm up out of bed. And I go to their room, the light's on and the curtain's up. They could not do this themselves, and there was no other adult in the house.
Whoa. That's all the proof I need.
The other bilocation was daydreaming at that book event. I was cooped up indoors on a gorgeous day, looking out the window and wishing I was outside. I was daydreaming. I was walking down this street, Solano, with trees. And a friend of mine saw me, Katrina, and she said, what were you doing walking down the street? And I know, she knew I was supposed to be at a book event. And I said, wow. Well, I asked her, where did you see me? And she said, on Solano. I said, what time? And it was exactly when I was daydreaming about it. Okay, now this is the original cover of.
She looks like she smells. She looks like a very stinky lady.
The first version of my book, Reality Shifts. When I told my friends in the 1990s about these reality shifts, two of my best friends who used to work at Citibank with me, high-level managers there, I was asking them, have you ever seen this sort of thing happen, where something just shows up out of nowhere, like it's been there all the time? And they said they weren't sure what I meant. As they
homeless
said
guy
that,
moved into my backyard once.
Here was something that we had never seen that just showed up out of nowhere. And I said, like this. And this sundial sculpture, it's interesting it's a sundial because that represents time and space.
Whoa.
So this was one of the big ones that first showed up for me, and it was in a place which blocks the view of another statue. So it was just very obvious that it had never been there before, but now it is. And I called the harbor master. This was at the Berkeley Marina. The harbor master's official story was, this has always been here, just like what you hear nowadays when you research Mandela effects. Same thing.
Hey?
I've witnessed instantaneous healing. So many examples of it. Massive, amazing.
You always tell these people are so phony because it's always like magic event after magic event that happens to them.
Examples of it. And as Dr. Larry Dossey
so much
would
magic.
tell you, people try to put this stuff down as anecdotal evidence, but really...
You never hear someone say, hey, I'm just some asshole, right? Nothing ever happened to me, but I'm going to look into this alien thing. No, everyone who's looked into stuff is part psychic, a black belt, probably wrote the CIA handbook.
These are case studies.
Such crap.
These are actual experiences.
Dreadlocks under
My grandmother's
snatch.
liver cancer.
You mean snatch locks?
Vanished. I had a friend's broken bones instantly healed.
Oh, shut up.
Our family dog's cataracts vanished. My daughter had a shattered bone that looked like an explosion had gone off. It completely healed.
But she did the Miyagi hand rub thing.
I had a friend come out of a coma.
That's really what it is, Jeff. I just can't stand being unexceptional.
Blisters and burns have instantly healed. So here's a picture of my grandmother. This was 1998. She had inoperable liver cancer, and she was getting quite elderly, so the doctors didn't want to do anything.
Poor little guy.
And they gave her just a few months to live.
Her liver killed her.
And she kept it a secret from a lot of us. This is the one who's so
We didn't know she was dead until her bottom jaw fell off. Then we called the doctor.
spiritual. This is my grandmother that had more faith than most ministers have. Amazing, beautiful, spirited woman. And so she had been told that she only had a few months to live, but she didn't want to ruin our holidays. So she didn't really tell very many people till after the holidays. And then she just prayed to have courage to face whatever came next. So here's what came next. Complete
She beat Ninja Gaiden.
vanishing of the liver cancer.
Whoa.
My father is an electrical engineer, civil engineer, actually. And what he was surprised by is that he had seen the x-rays.
She looks very gullible.
They
You're
had
probably
everything.
right.
They had tissue samples. They had all kinds of proof. Blood tests, CAT scans, everything. Complete vanishing of her cancer is what occurred. And so it was just very bizarre for someone who's got that view of reality is this way to witness something like that. To me, it made perfect sense because I had seen a lot of things changing. This is one of my good friends, Susan, and I tell her story in my book,
She
Quantum
means
Jumps.
the dog, not the lady.
She was camping and jumping from boulder to boulder when she broke her leg at Joshua Tree National Park. And when we talked on the phone, I reminded her that she had once seen me put my hand over an open wound, and then I took my hand away and it was healed. And I said, well, a bone is the same thing. It doesn't really matter what it is. You can just, basically...
You're full of shit!
Pray for just receiving that healing energy.
She's being manipulated?
And go to that reality where you're fine. And as we're
believe it.
talking, she felt it starting to get itchy, and I said, that's a very good sign.
That means it's working.
And sure enough, her cancer vanished. Her broken bone vanished. I'm looking at my dog picture too. I've got two stories here. So the picture of the dog, that's our family dog Susan's hugging. That's Prince Moonshadow. And
Prince
back in
Moonshadow.
2014, his eyes were glazing over with cataracts.
No, it's just because you were talking too long. That's why the dog's eyes were glazing over.
So when I first saw that, I thought, no, we don't want our dog to get cataracts. We love him. And then it went away from me. And then I was approached next by my husband and then my daughter. And
the dog does that thing like in movies where it puts the paws on top of its head, cover its ears.
Through the same conversations, basically I'd explain, well, sometimes it looks like he has cataracts. That can happen, but then we don't want the cataracts. We love our dog, and and then they go away. And that went away 3 times, and he never got cataracts again. So, and then my friend with the broken bone that healed, the doctors didn't know what had happened. That was a weird one, and it was hard for her to explain why she took all that time off to heal something that didn't need fixing when she's starting a new job. It was a little awkward, but
cool story.
Okay, here is my daughter who had the shattered leg. And the doctors said that they showed me the x-rays and said, it looks like an explosion went off. This bone is not going to...
They were talking about your front yard, not the bone. That looks like an explosion happened here.
Properly, it can't heal. There's no way all those little pieces and little miniature shards can possibly come back together. What you'll get is a bone mass blob, and that leg will be shorter.
I got a bone blob for you, lady.
So that's what's going to happen. And I said, did you say any of this to her? And they said, no. And I said, don't. Do not say this to her. So then we just worked every night on just loving her leg, and it healed perfectly.
Fuck doctors when you got love and shit.
And here's a friend that had a coma. This is Chris. And I was praying for his recovery, but I would sense things happening with him that there's no way I could have known, such as when there was pain around his heart, when he was intubated with his throat. They did a little thing so he could breathe, and the emergency heart surgery. So I even felt him lose his will to live. When that happened, that was a doozy. It's like, okay, I was telling his sister, my best friend Lisa.
All right, lady, enough. Enough. Go home. You've clearly been drinking.
Said, wow,
everyone there is drunk.
Not good. He's losing his will to live. We need to help him. This is going to take extra special prayer because this is big.
He lost his smile.
He'd regain the will to live. I could feel that happen. He felt it happen. Then he had some amazing things happen when he came out of the coma. And there was Sister Claire, an Irish Catholic nun, beside him praying, and he could see her glowing.
If you ask him what the amazing thing was, he said, I forgot she ever existed.
It was very cool. And
we're getting to that. We're getting to the resurrection.
Here, she got a blood blister from doing the monkey bars. And so I helped her just heal those huge, angry blood blisters by just putting my hands around her hands.
Oh, shut up.
Feeling lots of love for her. Took my hands away, and she's all better. And she asked me, is this what your mother used to do for you? And I said, no. And I described that weird mercurochrome red stuff.
Well, that's Clay's, tell Mama.
Like, I don't know. Funny.
No.
Okay.
No.
So time loops are especially interesting. I want to talk about that with my wife with reality shifts. And of course, Jerry mentioned it briefly. This is a huge subject. So I'm just going to go into it a little bit. But I want people to understand that when it comes to time loops, there are cultures on this planet that know about them and have words for them and accept them as a normal part of everyday life, such as the Norwegian word vardager. And that's a premonitory sound or sight of a person before he arrives. And the
damn those vardagers!
Finnish etienen, or I'm not sure I pronounced that correctly. I do have both Norwegian and Finnish heritage, so maybe I don't know if that helps in experiencing
You're a
these
Viking
things.
like Cobes.
But I did witness sequences of repeating events. So here's a picture of a conference facility that I went to, the Crown Plaza Hotel in Albuquerque.
Oh, the Crown.
There was a Science and Consciousness conference there in 2001 in April. And I was talking to a woman about these kinds of reality shifts, and as it was having this discussion, we both witnessed a woman come out of the parking lot into the lobby and walk past us. We didn't know
Wait,
her.
Are you saying every day she wakes up alone and she thinks she's in a time loop? I can see that. It looks like she has fleas.
But then we kept talking. A few minutes later, the same woman came the same way out of the parking lot, past us, and moved on through. And at that point, I said, wait a minute. You know, this is exactly
Yes, this is Cobes' mom.
We're talking about these kind of time shifts. And so I stopped.
I don't have no son. I don't have no son who's autistic and smells.
A woman who was walking through and asked, did you go through before? And she said, no. She didn't know what I was talking about. But it was nice to have another witness. So there were at least two of us that for sure recognized, yes, this just did happen.
No.
And another, the Vardager thing where you hear someone before they arrive happened to me a couple of times. One of them, the front door was slightly ajar. This is the front door. And I could hear my daughter and her friends showing up. And I could hear their voice.
That's definitely the crazy lady's house. Look at that yard. What a mess.
And I was in the kitchen. I said, I'll be right with you guys. But then I went to check and there was no one there. But then they showed up about 20 minutes later. So another kind of a circular kind of a time situation going on. Okay, so for the history of reality shifts, we need to give credit to PM.
2 goals.
H. Atwater. She's the first person in this reality who has coined the term reality shifts, and it was in her book Future Memory in 1995. She has a whole chapter dedicated to it.
As after they each had a box of wine apiece.
And it's exactly the way that I've been talking about reality shifts. I didn't know this at the time, but I was just thinking of a word or a phrase to describe what are we witnessing. in 1998. This is a few years after that Kundalini experience I had, where I felt like I can't hide this anymore. I'm going to have to go public, as embarrassing as this is, when there was no Mandela effect community. It's like, I'm going to have to go public with this and tell people about this? Really? So yes, so I started, the first issue of Reality Shifters featured Uri Geller. He came to San Francisco in October.
The biggest fraud out there. Hey guys, we got Uri Geller.
24th, 1999.
Remember when Johnny Carson put him on the spot? Made him look like a stupid asshole.
I've got a bunch of pictures of him doing the spoon bending, sprouting of seeds, mind matter.
Get out of here.
Interference and interaction going on. And basically, I was delighted to see someone had been doing this also, although more like a parlor performance kind of a thing, but still acknowledging this is real. I think the first recorded recognition of Mandela, Nelson Mandela, being alive again, I think we need to give credit to Art Bell, because in April of 2001, he said he'd received maybe 1,000 emails so far from people who remember history a very different way. I'm getting an awful lot of emails saying, Art, I remember that it happened this way. Not the way
Nothing other than giving crazies an audience. Now we have to listen to drunk cat ladies. Happened.
And so I think it's kind of interesting that it takes time for these things to catch on. So if you're in a hurry and you feel like I just hit the Mandela effect and why isn't everybody waking up? Keep in mind, that was 2001. That was 18 years ago.
She was ahead of all you idiots.
Sometimes it takes a while. I'm hoping that we can get more people to recognize it, but it's a process. In Reality Shifters, I've heard from people reporting Jane Goodall having died in 1985. And I remember Benicio del Toro.
What?
He died around 2001. I think both of them are still alive right now, I hope. They're both really great people.
That would have been something maybe to look up before your presentation, huh?
I did a survey in July 2005 just to find out who are people noticing being alive again. Who are the celebrities? It tends to be celebrities because those are people that we're all kind of peripherally aware of. At that time, Bob Keeshan, who played Captain King.
Bob Hope. At the end, Bob Hope was just a bag of meat in a wheelchair with glowing red eyeballs. Bob Hope looked like shit before he died.
And was reported by a little over a quarter of the respondents.
Art Bell was good.
Jane Goodall was another popular choice. And
George Norrie, though, sucks cock. I don't care what anyone says.
If you're thinking, well, they got her mixed up with Diane Fossey. I don't think.
Didn't George Norrie severely burn his mouth on bagel bites or something? George Norrie is the worst.
So, because the reason I was so upset about Jane Goodall was precisely because first Diane Fossey had died, and then Jane Goodall also murdered. That's what I remember.
No.
And it was just like this. I was like, wait a minute, this can't be happening. This is too weird, and it's not acceptable. And then the next thing I know, wow, she was alive.
Yeah, what happened is she heard about some other old bag dying in the news and just mixed them up in their head.
Good. Larry Hagman, 15%. Bob Hope, at that time, I guess he was still alive, 2005, 10%. Jack Palance, B. Arthur, Ed Asner, Walter Cronkite, and Mariel Hemingway. So that's just a sampling to give you an idea. This effect has been around for quite a while.
Yeah, George Norrie stinks.
Okay, so the Mandela effect itself is famous, of course, for Nelson Mandela. And
that's me.
You know, when
I'm
he was
Nelson
born in
Mandela.
1918, but what do you remember in terms of when did he die? And that's an individual thing.
Let me necklace you, Biff. I'm going to put your head in a tire and set it on fire.
But some of us, myself included, do remember Nelson Mandela died decades ago. And I'm glad it's not that way now. But I do remember that he was still incarcerated on Robben Island.
He didn't die. No one talked about him anymore because he was locked up.
Picture of him confined to that small cell. Keeping such
what are you going to say about someone who's in prison? Oh, he's still in prison, guys.
Face.
But
there was all this turbulence after
Smelson man smella.
He passed. It wasn't the thing at all about the way he passed more recently. It's so much better now. But this was...
Nelson Mandela's funeral was hilarious.
A very dark
if you didn't see it.
So the official current history, thank goodness, shows that Nelson Mandela died December 5th, 2013. And it was very peaceful, people lighting candles, remembering his long, wonderful legacy for human rights and for the world. I've done a study to show the Mandela effect trends using the Google Analytics. And this is a graph that shows a spike. And you can see that even though the Mandela effect term was coined in around 2010 by Fiona Broome.
Of course it was a broad.
It didn't really break through to public awareness, according to the Google search engine, until about 2016. So when you hear people say, this is pretty new for me in the last few years.
I think it was there, yeah. The whole thing was embarrassing. I think there was a really, I hope I'm remembering the same event at Nelson Mandela's funeral. There was a really bad, a fake, what do you call it? A sign language guy who was just all over the place.
It really is true.
He was just making it up.
This is packing a whole bunch of Mandela effects on one page.
Look at it, guys. It's not how it evil.
And what's interesting about this, just take a look if you can see it. I hope it shows up. I can read some of them. There's Berenstein Bears or Berenstein Bears.
No.
There's What If I Told You Everything You Knew Was a Lie from The Matrix. There's a Haas avocado on the upper right, spelled the way I remember it. It's from
There's no Jiffy. There's no Jiffy.
Yeah. 2 A's. Why else would you call it Haas? All these examples. You've got the tail on the little monkey, the Curious George. Star Wars is a big one for me. You've got C-3PO in the bottom left with supposedly not all gold. He's got a silver leg. And I remember Stouffer's stovetop stuffing. I don't know what happened to that. And of course, the lion and the lamb.
Stouffer's.
I think our other speakers are going to talk a lot more about this.
It's just a bunch of idiots who just remember things wrong.
So I'm just putting this up here because what you're seeing on this page, none of these are the current official history. So if any of those look right, then that's something to think about. Because what we're seeing is everything here is, people would tell you it's a lie. We don't have Jiffy peanut butter.
Yeah, you have, because you're an idiot. You had Skippy peanut butter and you had Jif peanut butter, but you're a dummy and you mixed them up in your head.
There never were the Berenstein Bears, even though that's how people pronounce
stupid.
it. And why would they do that if it was always Berenstein? You've got geography, briefly mentioned. We'll have people talking about that this weekend. So
yeah,
again,
Stouffer's just sounds like stovetop, exactly.
So you get the idea that this is huge. I think we're getting an explosion of thousands of these Mandela effects. There are sites tracking them.
But it's always the same examples, by the way.
So you can ask yourself, which bear family do you remember?
The A.
Well, I remember the Berenstein Bears. I know. It's like horrible. It's hard to see them side by side, yes. Okay. And I remember, this is a weird one. I just put it up because some people they like literature. I remember something different than what has currently supposedly always been true. What sounds right to you? This is the Oscar Wilde book. Would you remember the portrait of Dorian Gray? Or the picture of Dorian Gray? Which one sounds right? The portrait. Well, it's now always only ever been the picture of Dorian Gray.
My mind is blown,
guys. I'm not
sure
what that's about, but that's interesting. And then it gets really interesting. I was fascinated by this story out of England. I followed it in one of my blog posts because sometimes you'll notice an entire town is divided about what they remember. And this affected a town in England called a town of Bolton. They had
everyone's drunk in
meetings
England
about this topic. It was so heated because the newspaper even did a poll to find out what do people remember. Half of the villagers remember that there was a large dinosaur back in the 1960s that had always been prominently displayed at the very opening of the natural history part of their museum.
But it was never there.
And the other half of the people didn't quite remember that. But it made people wonder, why do we think that that was the case? Where would this memory have come from if it wasn't true? So to me, it sounds like another case very clearly of the Mandela effect. We're now seeing the mainstream media increasingly covering the topic, I think due to the fact that more and more people are acknowledging it and no longer dismissing it out of hand. But let's talk about false media, false Mandela effects. This does.
But then, like a lot of stuff, people do, dopey people mix up in their head.
happen when
And
people think that there might have been a Mandela effect, when actually it was a case of a logo changing. Like NBC's logo has definitely moved and changed over the years. It's been modified. Genuine Mandela effects are often, you'll see them in the form of art, either someone's sketch, painting, drawing, their journal notes.
I have our OnlyFans.
And that's because when you've done something yourself and you've drawn it and you painted it, then it's kind of like part of you interacting with it, and it's very much,
evidence
it's a
time, guys.
record
Here
of
we
your
go.
subjective experience. And so that's showing you something, that was the way that person did remember it. Flip-flops are fascinating to me. I'm showing one that happened at my neighbor's house next door. I would look across the house next door, and sometimes they had a leaf guard that prevented leaves from getting caught in the gutter.
Come on.
Other times they didn't. And it would kind of go...
What are you, staring at the neighbor's house? Do they have a leaf guard yet? I must know.
Back and forth. And it was kind of fascinating and weird. Like, okay, what's going on with that? And then also the other example that I mentioned earlier was our dog having cataracts, and sometimes not. And it does help if you're observing realities with people who are friendly, supportive of what you're observing, and choosing with you. This is just a bizarre picture. It's just to show something surreal. I think we are...
Someone with a twin should go with these, and then the other twin come out, I'm from another dimension. The crowd would love that.
Glimpsing other possible realities. And so this picture is showing a giraffe joining people at the breakfast table. This is just showing us that what you believe it to be possible is more likely to be something you can experience. So
Get out of here,
to the degree
giraffe.
that you're open-minded, you'll actually be able to witness more things. And to the degree that you're kind of close...
I don't want to fucking envision a giraffe in my house. I'd punch that fucker right in the face.
Closing it in, that's going to narrow what you'll be able to observe. Okay, so what is happening? This is where I think it's interesting to talk about, and we'll have lots of conversations this weekend about it.
Oh no.
And what I'd like you to think about are
I
four
only come for the conversations.
top contenders that I hear a lot about. Maybe it's because of the scientific community that I hear from a lot. Number one, we're living in a computer simulation. That's the idea that's kind of got glitches in it, and sometimes, there's a glitch in the matrix. Number two, people have false memories. It's confabulation. People get misguided. Something reminds them of something, and that's why we got, Biko mixed up with Mandela. We got Jane Goodall mixed up with Diane Fossey. I know that's not true, but a lot of people think that's all that it is.
That's all that it is.
Number three, scientists at CERN are tampering with reality, or perhaps some other
You got Susan?
cyclotron. There are others. Number four, quantum phenomena occur at every scale, small to large. So these are four possible explanations. And so let's take a look at number one. If we're living in a simulation with glitches...
Or just say, I never stole your money. You must be thinking of somebody else. Yeah, maybe you're right.
One of our top proponents of this theory is Elon Musk. And he likes
he made one Twitter post once, or said something.
to announce that there's
He already
the
forgot
chance
about
that
that
we
dumb
are
shit.
not living in a simulation is 1 in billions. I think takes a lot of chutzpah to say that. I mean, really.
Boy.
But anyway, he thinks that there will be computing technology that will soon be indistinguishable from real life. I don't know what real life he's talking about, but again, maybe that's his reality.
Fuck dolls.
Yet, I would say that the qualities of our life experiences, to me, feel so much richer, more joyful, and more meaningful than anything that you can get from a computer simulation.
Yeah.
To me, real nature and really interacting with wild animals,
Cool,
with other
go
people,
outside.
with just that level of participation that you get. I don't think you get that from a computer program. And I have worked in information technology. Those are some of my earliest jobs.
She did evil, Betty.
I
I
did
heard
work
that.
at Space Sciences. I programmed in about 4 or 5 different languages. So I do know what I'm talking about.
No,
I'm not just saying this randomly. I really think that there's a difference. So this is a joke. On the right, you'll see a digital billboard in Odessa, and it malfunctioned in the fog. So I don't think you can quite see it, but that's the Windows 98 fail message. It's kind of like, so it
That's
convinced
zany.
unknown numbers of individuals, not only were they living in the Matrix, but it was being run on Windows 98.
That's a good one.
I think that's kind of silly. You know, the kind of glitches you'd get would be different than the kind of things we're seeing. A lot of what we're seeing is
pull out your smelly old lady alcoholic flapjacks
this weekend too.
That's why I'm here.
So what is being simulated?
I'm here for
what is base reality?
Smelly old lady alcoholic flapjacks.
I think that's the key to this whole simulation thing. People think like, oh, they're done. It's a computer simulation. We solved it. It's over. Haha, done. But really, it's not done. So what are you simulating? What is this wonderful thing? You know, who is in that control room?
Hanford.
Operating all of it. What is this real reality? So they haven't really solved it. They just pushed the dirt under the carpet. Theory 2, shared false memories and confabulation.
People maybe sometimes Freddy phases in the control room.
Sometimes have defective memories is the idea here. And people get suggestible. You'll see magicians demonstrate this. They'll be able to get people to draw a certain card.
By people they brought into the crowd before the show. And gave them $20 to go along with it.
They know how to do that. But it doesn't really make sense about why so many of us would agree on all these details. And it wouldn't really explain the flip-flops.
Maybe in another dimension he still likes the name Pick Rob.
So there are a lot of things that don't really make sense. But if you start looking at human decision and cognition models, such as with this fabulous theorist named Jerome Busemeyer, and I've interviewed him on my show, Living the Quantum Dream.
Jerome Busemeyer.
He says in his book that he co-authored with Peter Bruza, and that's the cover of the book, Quantum Models of Cognition and Decision.
Gotta get that
he says the wave nature of an indefinite state captures the psychological experience of conflict, ambiguity, confusion, and uncertainty. And boy, does it. I mean, if you're in it, it can be very, very unsettling. It's not comfortable. It's not comfortable always to be in that state. So
more
we don't
Mandela
like
effect, please.
The particle nature of a definite state captures the psychological experience of conflict resolution, decision, and certainty. So you can see right there why people would prefer to believe. Let's just stick with material realism. Let's say there's only one reality. You know, let's believe in this fairy tale of objectivity and, you know, that things that can be materially true only. Something that I mentioned in my book, Quantum Jumps, is called flashbulb memories.
Oh, this
and here you'll see the example of the Challenger space shuttle explosion. That was a moment in time when some psychologists thought, perfect opportunity. Well, ask all of the psychology students to write down, where were you, what were you doing, who were you with, how did you find out?
None of your business, you motherfucker.
About this calamity. And so the students wrote that down.
I always hate when schools would ask you, like, write about something. What did you do over your summer vacation?
In their own handwriting, turned it into the professors. And then a little while, like a year or two later, the professors asked the same question again, because this is a great opportunity. Now, where do you think you were? Who were you with? What were you doing? How did you find out? And then they got their original papers back. And several of the students said, that's my handwriting, but that's not what happened.
What?
And that's interesting too. So it's kind of very cool. Okay, theory 3.
Scientists. It just seems like they're sniffing. You know what I mean? Like, just seem nosy.
CERN are tampering with reality. And some wonder if strange goings-on might be happening at the Large Hadron Collider. You'll see conspiracy theories about the logo for CERN with the 666 and so forth, and all sorts of things.
That's clearly a 666.
Saying that scientists opened a portal, created a black hole, or ripped a tear in the fabric of space. And, you know, maybe they did. I don't know. I know
ripped a tear in the fabric of her pants.
A lot of particle physicists, so I would have to tell you, these people are the farthest people from doing anything like that you'd probably ever want to meet.
I'll take Crazy Lady's word for it.
They're very focused on what they're doing. But anyway, my feeling is that consciousness, including God, is always going to be greater than all of that. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think that based on what I've seen, what I've witnessed, my own experiences, so I would say, and then here's a picture of some particle physicists. Do they look to you like the type that are, you know, dancing with goats and...
Yeah, they look like fucking creeps. Look at that guy down in the bottom. Look at this bitch. This bitch right here. The bitch with the glasses. She's definitely up to no good. And look at this bitch with the purple shirt. That bitch is definitely up to no good. They're all creeps. I wouldn't trust any one of those motherfuckers.
Having blood rituals? I don't think so. Maybe these people are being directed by dark forces, but even so, God is greater. So.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Theory 4. This is the one that I've been proposing most often in my writing, in my books and articles.
Well, they need to hurry up if they're going to do them us all.
Even here, if you go far enough, you'll see consciousness plays the role. So this is the idea that macroscopic scale quantum phenomena is occurring. And I believe this is true. I believe that our reality is primarily quantum, and the classical scale is a subset, a very special case subset. I know you can derive all of quantum physics from 6 simple postulates, which proves that you can do that. You can say, like, okay, this is the whole world as we can conceive of it. Not what matters to us, not love, not consciousness, not how you know that you're real. I mean, science can't really do that. But if you look at quantum physics, you'll notice that all of the strange quantum behavior is occurring at every single level of reality. Just hit the wrong button. There we go.
How about some evidence?
Oh, hello again. Okay.
Like
now I'm going to give some examples of what I mean. So when you see a flip-flop, which here's a picture from my book Reality Shifts, where one morning I hadn't changed the bird feeder, but I just came out at 2 different points in time, and the levels of the bird feed was dramatically different.
How did that happen?
This would definitely indicate that we can see examples of quantum superposition. That this is something that you'd expect to see occasionally. That 2 different states of the bird feeder might be observable if you're open-minded to observing it. Because you've come to this conference or heard about the Mandela effect or whatever.
The birds ate the seed. Who cares?
Most all instances of Mandela effects change simultaneously. This is a big part of quantum physics. It's called entanglement. So when systems are entangled, such as your families and people you care about, you tend to usually agree on most things. There's a level of collective consciousness going on. Here's a picture of my childhood lunchbox. I remember Charles Schultz was spelled differently than it currently is. I used to stare at this lunchbox every day.
There was never Schultz.
It did have a T in it, but now it's just Schultz.
There was never a T in there.
So seeing people nodding too. This was a big one for me personally, because every day I would look at that lunchbox. And that's kind of weird. So, but with quantum entanglement, the reason that you get everything
there was never a T in there. It's so annoying.
Changing all at once is because it's all entangled together. Very much a part of quantum physics. You would expect to see instantaneous telepathic communication.
Do you know Boulder Puncher is named Boulder Puncher now, not Boulder Slapper, as we all know him.
Also because of quantum entanglement. And these are books by Rupert Sheldrake, Dogs That Know When Their Owners Are Coming Home. This is a scientist who has actually proven that this is true. Another great researcher was Cleve Baxter, who wrote a book, Primary Perception, also talking about similar topics. And here's my friend and great researcher and great physicist, Henry Stapp. Doctors would not necessarily witness physiological Mandela effects. Why would that be? And it's due to the quantum Zeno effect.
And you can't have that.
So it means that when you're close to something, you're going to be, like if you have obsessive compulsive disorder, kind of, and you're checking something, because you're working with it every single day, for you, it's going to be locking that system into that state. You're locking it in. And so, of course, that's going to be true. Whereas people that don't work with it would not notice it.
Where did you come from?
Retrocausality, time travel. That's a very natural...
I'm going to trust the word that motherfucker said. That guy's hiding something. I could tell. Look at that guy's face. But he's got a butt plug in there or something. Something ain't right.
Of quantum physics. And here's the organizer of a time travel research conference, David Sheehan. And he says, to say that it's impossible for the future to influence the past is to deny half of the predictions of the laws of physics. So there we go. You may think that's far out, but quantum physics denies a singular history of facts. There's no way that that could be true. People being teleported to safety is one of the top most closeted things going on right now. When I give talks, I'll have people
I wish I was teleported right now. That'd be nice.
Privately and admit, I was teleported to safety. I went through, a car was coming right at me, and the next thing I know, my vehicle was on the other side of it. They feel embarrassed to say these things because they know people are going to say, you're crazy, that couldn't have happened.
Shit, the dragon
well, it's happening a lot. So it's good for people to know it is happening. And it can be life-saving quite often. So this is interesting. The cover of my book, Quantum Jumps, used to have a section explaining why this is the cover. In the process of getting ready for this conference, I spent maybe 3-4 hours looking for where I wrote that in the book. It is gone. I love that.
Ugh,
Welcome
God.
to the wild.
Can we hear that again?
Welcome to the wild. In the process of getting ready for this conference, I spent maybe 3-4 hours looking for where I wrote that in the book. It is gone. I love that. Welcome to the wild. I love that. Welcome to the wild. I love that.
What a ghoul.
Welcome to the wild, wonderful world of Mandela effect.
Bitch is a ghoul, dude.
What's going on with this? You'll see the illustration, and I put our beautiful logo there because to me it's very similar.
Very
I
nice.
feel like what we're witnessing is just this. Here, the next slide should explain what is not in the book. Entangled black holes can be pathways through the multiverse. They can be very small. And so what you're seeing is the possibility for something on an astronomical scale to be tied with a quantum property. And we have researchers proving this.
Let me see that black
Leonard
hole,
Susskind and Juan Maldacena postulate that wormholes, which are also called Einstein-Rosen bridges, can be viewed as
I might be out of line, but this woman is unsavory. Unsavory.
Entanglement between black holes. And then MIT's Julian Sonner shows that the creation of a pair of entangled quarks can give rise to a wormhole connecting the two of them. So you can get these things happening on a very small scale, and
More
there can
Mandela
be
effect,
a
please. This ain't
mechanical
fun.
mechanism for what's going on, which people want to know.
Mandela effect is supposed to be a goofy, fun conspiracy. It's not meant to be fucking talking about black holes and shit. It's supposed to be like, hey, you remember that wacky thing that happened?
You know, they want that mechanism. Okay, going back to these 4 theories that I'm looking at tonight.
Too torturous.
When I look at all 4 of them, when you go to the bottom of each one, you end up at the same place. They're basically all taking us to consciousness. And what do we mean by that?
Consciousness.
Well,
That's
no,
the buzzword, that this is all crap, which we didn't need because we knew it was all crap. It's just,
That's a whole other thing.
It's
So this
real
is
crap
really a
now.
Mandela effect conference, but to me, it's a consciousness conference also. And that
Mandela
would be in
effect.
agreement with the founder of quantum physics, Max Planck, who said, I regard consciousness as fundamental.
I'll give you a Max
I
Planck.
regard matter as derivative from consciousness. We cannot get behind consciousness. Everything that we talk about, everything we regard as existing, postulates consciousness.
Look at that guy. You trust that guy? That guy's a shifty rascal, guys. He's a rascal. Look at him. A stinker. You don't trust rascals and or stinkers.
Okay, now we get into the history of this whole thing. How far back does this go? I've talked about it sort of occurring through my whole life. So what I'm saying is this has been with us for a long time. This is a history of the universe kind of a chart, just to get us to think about that. Well, let's take a look at exceptional experiences of consciousness. This is extremely important. I started tonight by telling you that I'm born aware, that I remember a blissed out state of being, pure consciousness. That's extremely important. Who else
Right, it's supposed to be fun shit. This ain't fun.
shares that experience with me? These people do. ET and UFO experiencers, lucid dream experiencers, people who have mystical experiences, people who have near-death experiences, people who have out-of-body experiences, and people who have Mandela effect experiences. So this is something that
That's the
is
list
worth
at the AA meetings. This is what happens when you stop drinking for 10 minutes.
taking a look at. Characteristics of exceptional human experiences were documented by a scientist, Ray White, and she said that spontaneous, transcendent, new experience of self is all part of this. That there are experiences of connection, there's a direct experience of reality.
Fucking Susan.
Sometimes there's no sense of separation whatsoever. You can get tingling and rapid heartbeat. You can get swooning, raised hairs, goosebumps, breathlessness, all of
You're
these
making me
kinds of
swoon right now.
physiological things. So to be sentient, to shift reality, you can consider it operating outside of conditioning. Just deciding.
You mean I can
we're
stop
gonna
bullets
be
like
a
that
little
guy?
bit renegade here. We're going to be a little bit different. And so when we do that,
she's a slap nuts.
We're joining a very long tradition that goes back thousands of years. You may think that's never been the case. That's not true. We've had people thousands of years ago that have been documenting these kinds of things. These would be yogi masters, right. Martial arts masters,
Hey, those guys are still alive.
Masters, Tibetan Buddhist masters, and shamans. So yoga masters,
those guys run the Antifa mugshot list.
Practicing siddhis or supernormal abilities. And this is extremely well documented. Dean Radin wrote a book about it recently, Supernatural. And these people can demonstrate reality shifts such as bilocation, teleportation, materialization of objects, invisibility, weather changes, time travel, levitation, and more. And I've experienced most of those myself, so these are not made up fictitious things. These are real. That's a picture of me with my martial arts master.
Fuck. Oh, man. I knew it was coming. Her martial arts master. Karate master, guys. We knew it. We knew it. Always a karate master. Oh, man.
I practice martial arts. I like to focus my mind, bring my mind, body, spirit together.
You dork.
That's In-hyuk Suh. He's the grandmaster of Kuksul-won.
The only thing you kill is the Golden Corral.
Again, you see a younger picture of Henry Stapp up at the top. He's there with another scientist, Helmut Schmidt. They together did some research to observe.
That's a rather flamboyant karate outfit, huh? You got the gold and the purple.
People affect something that has happened in the past. And they thought, well, that sounds kind of far out. But Henry Stapp is great because he likes to think about these things. He thinks, well, it should be possible. Quantum physics shows us it should be possible. Let's find out. Let's get some focused people.
Well, we've seen
I wasn't part of that study
suits.
because it happened, a long time ago back in the 70s, but they found in replicated studies that these martial artists who were very focused could affect the random radioactive decay of an isotope that
and they could do Hadoukens.
Occurred previously. What they were doing is just watching green and red lights and just kind of shifting it in a direction that, green or red. No problem. But how is that
someone
possible?
else called it too. We always call the karate suits.
So the conjecture there is that same thing that you saw at the time travel.
Maybe we manifested the karate suits, guys. Maybe in our minds we all knew it was coming, so it appeared. We changed the dimensions.
For causality conference, of course, it's an expected feature of quantum physics. Kung masters, such as John Chang, he was featured in a documentary on video. He was called Dynamo Jack. He was seen to heal with his hands, catch a pellet from an air rifle in his hand without it going through. He pushed a chopstick through a tabletop, and here's a video of him starting fires with energy from his hands.
Wow, look at that
So
guy.
this was in a documentary called Ring of Fire, really cool, about Indonesian energy masters.
You mean street
Tibetan meditation masters
magicians.
are similarly gifted with these abilities.
Hadoukens.
And Tibetan Buddhists have been instructed to disregard these kinds of shifts in reality because it can distract you from the spiritual path. But they're definitely saying that these things are happening. They're just saying, don't get obsessed with it. Don't make it part of your ego. Tonight, Jerry said, this is a great team this weekend. I agree, because you're not getting people caught up in their ego, like, look how great I am.
Lady, you just showed yourself in a karate suit. This whole presentation is look how great I am. That's all you've been doing. That's all you've been doing for over an hour. Look how great I am.
Look at me changing things.
That's what you did.
It's really not about that. And if you start making it about that, it's going to kind of go in a sideways direction. I met a Mongolian shaman, and his name is Zarigdapar Banzar. So this is a photo in 2004.
Guys, if you haven't had the Mongolian beef, it's delightful.
And he spoke to a bunch of us. We authored a paper with him, about him. We magically found a translator that spoke Mongolian at this tiny conference. Someone who just happened to be there who spoke Mongolian and stayed up late with us. And found out that this Mongolian shaman believed that we need to be more connected with one another. That's really what is necessary right now. And this is interesting to me that
the Hopi have nothing. They're a bunch of drunk idiots. No, you know, the Hopi is another one. You hear that name, you're like, oh, here we go.
Hopi Indians. I wrote an article called "Comes True Being Hoped For" Parabola magazine. I was fascinated by two things. One, they talked about UFOs pretty much, and two, they talked about reality shifting. And so I put both in this article, and it got published. I was like, wow, cool, because they talk about a great flood on the planet, just as you hear about when you study Christianity, that there was a
peyote in the desert.
Great flood. But then they go on and talk about the ant people that came and rescued people, and that's not really covered so much
yet
in the Bible. Not that I've seen. Who knows? This could.
Oh, stop laughing. You were horrendous. Stop.
Yeah, maybe later we'll see it. I don't know. But it's kind of cool because the Hopi have a word for this, that when you hope for something with a pure heart and with a clear crown chakra,
pretty much,
that what you believe can come true. And I would agree with that too. I think the purity of heart is really important in keeping that clear crown chakra so that you're open to the divine guidance. It really matters. And again, Max Planck, that founder of quantum physics, said when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Powerful.
So he knew. I mean,
he was like a party animal, that guy.
Niels Bohr, another physicist, said everything we call real is made of things that cannot be regarded as real. So in other words, things are mostly empty space. They're mostly energy. Now in physics, you'll often see this kind of, I've got a cartoon here that shows on the left side, it's the quantum realm, and on the right side is the classical. And that's been a nice way for a physicist to kind of divide it, and so they don't have to deal with the quantum weirdness. Those days are over.
I'm sick of quantum weirdness, guys.
Thanks to technology and
it's a load of
computing. So it was nice while it lasted, that people could shut up and calculate, not have to think about what's really going on here. Those days are numbered, and I think they're over. So what is happening?
Listerine is in fact cheaper than whiskey.
Say quantum phenomena is occurring everywhere and at every scale. And I'm telling you, I've talked to some of the world's top theoretical physicists. They agree. So it's time for us to reconsider our assumptions that we've instilled in ourselves, that material realism is where things are
right.
at. Because
Sit
you can
back
measure
and indulge,
it, then that's all that's real, right?
You earned it. Hey, they drew a butthole on that cat. Why would you draw the butthole? I mean, you know that's where the butthole's going to be. Why would you draw it?
Is where things are at. Because you can measure it, then that's all that's real.
Wait,
right?
This picture's not done. This one X right here ties it all together.
So things like entanglement, superposition of states, conscious observation, tunneling, teleportation, spooky action at a distance. That used to be, you could ignore it.
You missed the karate suit, Nerky.
But it's creeping into every single branch of science. We've got the quantum invasion. It's kind of like the Beatles invasion, but now it's quantum invasion, hitting every branch of science. And the old guard is a little bit reluctant to deal with it, like, oh gosh, no, we don't want this in biology. But some scientists are thrilled.
Lady, when you're on your deathbed, do you want a life of like just bullshit? Like just going through your memories like, oh yeah, I was making that up. Do you want to deal with that?
That finally we can understand things. The assumptions that are going out the door have been assumed to be part of science for so long, but they're not really. Assumptions like reality is entirely made out of matter. Wholes cannot be reduced to smaller parts. That is what's true. You can't always reduce it. Actions can take effect non-locally, was never allowed for. People used to believe observers could be objective.
Can we have one slide that makes sense?
That's not true.
That'd be nice.
And probabilities are best we can get when you get into that quantum situation. Causes definitely can precede effects. This is strange territory. So
I'd bust her assumptions.
I'm suggesting that we're going to be seeing a lot more of is quantum logic rules the universe. That's the big set. That's the universal set. Classical deductive.
When our fat bitch is going to start, Uncle Ted, when our fat bitch is going to start using quantum whatever to justify their eating 2 meatloafs.
Logic of the
it was quantum
yes,
deductive
no,
logic.
False.
Why I ate 3
That's
meatloafs.
A very specialized subset. And certain aspects of physics can never admit a classical understanding. That's how you know this is the case. And the role and domain of classical logic obviously is limited, and subjective perspective can therefore literally change the physical world. And these are a couple of physicists that I think are doing some great work. When these pictures were taken, I think they were at the Perimeter Institute and also London. David Jennings on the left saying nature functions in a quantum manner.
Jennings definitely takes it to the cheeks.
And they may not agree with what we're talking about here. Remember, you're not going to get a lot of physicists saying like, oh yeah, this is real. But they are giving us the foundation to understand what is happening. And on the right is Matthew Leifer, who says we now have a range of precise statements showing that whatever
all that's left now is for her to say it's all love, guys. We all got to come together.
Ultimate laws of nature are.
That's the only thing we're missing.
Be classical. That is true. So I've been talking a lot about this, assuming that you might know about things like the double slit experiment. I think a lot of us do know that. But just to review, the double slit experiment is so classic.
So many jokes.
Because it shows us that the observer makes a difference. So here in this experimental apparatus, you've got a scientist taking a look at these two slits, like two doors, kind of like doorways. And
those are young ladies. How dare you call them that?
In a situation where one photon at a time is being fired through, that's happening because there's an observational device that knows exactly where that photon is going through. Photons are quantum particles. So the smallest piece of light, the little building block of light, if you will, has the property of either behaving like a particle or like a wave. When it's acting like a wave, then you're getting the kind of diffraction,
that's all we're missing.
The effect of either destructive or constructive interference, which sets up these kinds of ripples on a pond effect, where you get these lines. And that's what happens when the wave-like situation is happening.
Every crazy person always brings up this stupid experiment, like it means anything. Yeah, but sometimes it's particles, but then sometimes it's waves. Okay, how does that? What does that have to do with UFOs or ghosts? But particles and waves, they could be both.
Can occur when as long as you're not measuring which slit the photons are going through, even if you're just firing one photon at a time. This is very confusing to a lot of physicists. It is, because we still don't have one interpretation that everyone agrees with as to what's happening. But what we know for sure is that quantum superposition is real. And the Schrodinger's cat experiment is another famous example of bizarre quantum effects. And in this example, if you've got quantum material such as a radioactive, it's basically a random trigger that can trigger the hammer to break a glass vial containing poisonous gas, which would then kill the cat, meaning that the cat's life is completely...
She's dust particles now.
...being controlled by a very quantum process. And because the quantum process, back in that day when the scientists thought you can have your quantum realm, your classical realm, they were still trying to think that way. Then it was kind of bizarre, because now the cat is suddenly, based on the quantum particle being in a superposition of states, because the cat's entangled with that, they're both in a superposition of states. So that means, is the cat alive? Is it dead? What is it? What's going on? And we know this is happening. We know it's happening at every level of reality. But we don't know exactly why. We don't have an interpretation that says why. Right. This is an illustration from a paper by physicist Yasunori Nomura. And it shows that when we see the outline of something behind an obstruction, like the edge of a chair, we expect that the rest of the chair is behind the obstruction, because it's entangled. Not? We don't have half the chair as just a blur of wave functions blurred out over all probability space. And so Yasunori says we see almost classical physics because we, who are part of the state, are correlated or entangled with the rest of the multiverse. So what happens in the quantum realm, it doesn't really stay in the quantum realm. It's like housekeeping, where you try to sweep it under the rug.
What about the nether realm?
And that dirt, it just gets bigger and bigger. So you can't hide it. And I think that's what's happening with the Mandela effect. We're in that tipping point where people are starting to see that this is
How come there's only 15 people there?
We're definitely observing something. And we don't have
And all the people there are just other people that are going to be speaking. This is 6 parts. I figured the first one would be the best.
Boy, was I wrong. Reality. And this is something that a lot of physicists
maybe an introduction. What the hell is the Mandela effect? A little something.
Definitely true. But again, it's cutting edge, and it's flies in the face of what we think we know. There's research this year in 2019 experimentally to prove this, that there is no such thing as objective reality, and 2 simultaneous subjective observers that are both equally trusted at the same time and place will absolutely observe different things. That's amazing. I never thought I'd live to see this wonderful development, but it's true. So 2 observers,
empty convention.
This is the physicists at Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh and the University of Vienna, Austria. The cartoon has 2 people looking at a figure on the
hell, Mama, she has a karate suit, dude. Good luck. Good luck. You better bring a fucking army.
Ground. One says 6, one says 9, and just because you're right does not mean I am wrong. You just haven't seen life from my side. It's really true for those of us.
The comic was written by John Sakers.
Experience the Mandela effect. And I co-authored a paper with George Weissman, a physicist, and it's called The Quantum Paradigm and Challenging the Objectivity Assumption. We wrote that 2 years ago, and we did that because we both shared a fascination for that Tibetan Buddhism I talked about. And because of that, we'd read the same books about time, space, and knowledge and so forth. And he thought, cool, we got to write this. So we did and presented it at a conference. Basically, the quantum paradigm can be intellectually comprehended as well as embodied.
What's this got to do with the Mandela effect?
One can live in
I wanted to hear about Stouffer's
I'm over here
stuffing.
Living my best life.
So what she's saying is, there are 2 pickles at one place.
I hope not. 1 pickles is more than enough. I don't need another pickles.
From reality. A good metaphor for this is life as a dream with no real objects as distinguished from experienced objects.
Somewhere a side of the road died on Fed Smoker. But yes, Fed Smoker is still alive.
We're going to hear more about that, I think,
with a dead side of the road on him.
Okay, so who are the Mandela effect affected? I did a study to check and see if there's any sort of a correlation with the Myers-Briggs interest inventory, because I thought, well, maybe there is something. And it was interesting because if you're familiar with that test, you can take it online in about 15 minutes and find out what you are.
Well, I know what you guys are doing.
And there are different versions of it. What you'll see is there's a huge percentage of people that are intuitive feelers with that NF combination. Either they're INFP, I think on the far left is pink.
No, it doesn't.
At the top right is ENFP, and then INFJ. What's bizarre is these are not the highest percentages of these people in the general population. These are not. So the people that are experiencing...
You know why that's a fake test? Because there's no outcome that says you're just a fucking asshole. You're not good at anything. You're stupid. That's how you know it's a bad test. Everything's positive.
Mandela effect are actually the rare types. Yet they're being affected. And here's a chart that shows the personality types key. The intuitive feelers are the N that you see as opposed to sensing. And the feelers over the thinkers. Now, that's not to say that you have to be an intuitive feeler to experience the Mandela effect. It just means that that's the majority of the experiencers.
I don't see a dank dude thing right here. So the test is no good. If you don't have a dank dude, it needs a big D.
So in the shamanic view, the world is as we dream it.
Why would you ever go in the shamanic view?
Sentient beings dream reality into being.
The shaman, he put a stick in his ass. It came out clean. That means the Mandela effect is real.
Which raises the question, which I think is the most important unspoken question that most people, including physicists, never look at. Who is the observer? And what is consciousness? Here's a cartoon. Can we see that trick again, please? Just showing a bunch of neurons, this neural net map, and then bing, consciousness. And most of the theories look something like that right now. So, yeah, it's kind of funny when you think about it. Like, how does that happen? So I think it's ludicrous. I think we have to recognize consciousness must be primary. I have to agree with Max Planck. And so because we've never yet found consciousness in the neurons, we've never found it with phrenology, that little chart of the bumps on the head.
What's wrong with that guy's dome? What kind of dome is that? Not the drawing, the picture. The guy has no chin.
You know, that's silly, isn't it? But we're still looking at things like MRI scans.
Wait, and this brain section. Where's the sweet guitar? Where's the sweet guitar lick section? I don't see any sweet guitar licks. It's dumb.
We're thinking we can find consciousness.
You
might find a correlate of consciousness, but I don't think you're going to find consciousness in any measurable. So I like to go back to Leibniz, who was one of the inventors of calculus, also the founder of science as we know it, just with the idea of elegance as something you look for when you look at a good theory. Leibniz views consciousness as requiring both a first-order perception of something.
So I'm over here living my best life.
The Mandela effect is a psychological phenomenon in which the person misremembered something from the past even though it was never how they remembered it. For example, many believe it was Berenstain Bears when it was Berenstain Bears.
It was always Berenstain Bears, Bunny. It was always. Thank you.
Reflective perception.
That's exactly
So
right.
this is the dude coming up with calculus. If you know calculus, then you're like, oh, that sounds like calculus.
Like you know where the one says, it never said, Darth Vader never said, Luke, I am your father. But you know who said, Luke, I am your father? Every cheesy 80s comedian. And that's what they're remembering. They're not remembering the actual movie quote. They remember the cheesy comedians where they turn around and say, hey, wait, check this out, guys. And they do a really bad fucking Darth Vader impersonation.
If you don't know calculus, don't worry about it. It just
that's
means,
one they always talk about. He never said, Luke, I'm your
scared,
father.
Don't panic, as they say, Hitchhiker's Guide. So what you want to do is just recognize I'm observing something, but who am I? I'm the observer of the one who's doing the observing. And that is where the sentience comes in. That is the key to it.
We're almost home.
And then, of course, I've talked to people with artificial intelligence, and they're trying to build this sort of thing.
Yeah, they're remembering the cheesy, like, Saturday Night Live skits and bad comedians.
Possible. But, you know, what is consciousness really? I think you can't look into the machine and find it. You're not going to find it there. So as Leibniz said in Principles of Nature and Grace, it's good to make a distinction between perception, which is the internal state of the monad representing external things, and apperception, which is consciousness, science, or the reflective cognition of the internal state. And he really believed in the soul, really believed in God. Basically, consciousness and perception of it arises from unconscious perceptions. And again, we see this with the Mandela effect. We're looking at collective consciousness happening on a global scale. Conscious perception arises gradually by degrees from perceptions that are too minute to be noticed, usually, until they start jumping out at you. So who do we mean when we say I? What is that? What is I? These are pictures of me at different ages. Is that all me?
What's doing here? Man, shit went south, huh? Look at her. What happened? Where's Hot Dog Cat? What happened there? Now she looks like Susan. Must have been all the alcohol.
None of us are ever who we were yesterday. Not exactly. We assume we know who we are.
That's right.
We've got the human infants can pass that self-identity test where you look in the mirror.
But it's not all about me, guys. Here's a million pictures of my head.
You know that's you. There's some animals that can do that too. Humans do it by 18 months of age.
What a dome.
But who is that? There's a cartoon showing an old lady in a wheelchair, but she's shadow dancing and remembering an earlier age when she could ballroom dance. So who you know yourself to be is different than who your friends and family see. I think all of us in this room can agree, especially if you're Mandela affected. We have many selves. So a man has as many social selves as there are individuals who recognize him. That's our American psychologist, William James. And self-awareness can reveal that. You can start getting a sense of it. So do you recognize perhaps also you now that a minute ago you were another? Here's the author, an Italian author of One, No One, and 100,000. And just the idea that you don't even know who you really are. We're choosing that, by choosing who we can be and how good it can be for us.
I'm an asshole who streams stupid presentations every Monday. I know who I am, and I hate it.
How good we can be, we're making those choices. And you think maybe other people don't notice? Everybody notices. There are many realities. I think Philip K. Dick tuned into that. He wrote a lot of futuristic science fiction that we've seen in movies like Blade Runner and so forth. And when you look at all these different realities, he took sort of a dark view, actually. Remember that who you can be is who you're allowing yourself to be. Where are you aiming? What are you aiming for? And he did go in some dark places. But he had an idea here that maybe each human being lives in a unique world, a private world, different from those inhabited and experienced by all other humans.
Don't hurt anybody.
If reality differs from person to person, can we speak of reality singular, or shouldn't we really be talking about plural realities? And if there are plural realities...
But is it your best life, or is another dimension your best life?
Some more true, more real
So much to think about.
And we'll definitely be looking at that this weekend. You are not your thoughts. You are not
Frank, are we in the good dimension?
No!
Oh.
Feelings. Remember why? Because you're the observer of those. You're sentient. So there's nothing more important to true growth than recognizing that you're the one who's hearing that. And here's another great book, Michael Singer, The Untethered Soul. And so if we're looking at levels of self, who are we?
This
so
had
much of what we
nothing
call
to do
self
with Mandela effect.
is basically operating in that subconscious manner that Leibniz identified and William James was talking about. So it's not a singular operator so much as a multitude of unified subsystems that are working together. And if you don't know what I mean by that, then this is something that I was really clear on when I was a young child. I was just looking at people like, why are they just going all these different directions? They're thinking one thing, feeling another, and forcing themselves to do what they don't even need to do, but something different. It's a mess.
Yeah, so you can come up and lie on a stage to everybody.
Big jumble. And here's an illustration from my book, Aura Advantage, just showing that you can line that up. You can work together with the I am awareness. And what we're noticing with those exceptional human experiences that I'm talking about is you're getting some additional perspective with dimensional depth. This is giving you the ability to start seeing beyond just your two eyes, but to see into what you might think of as other realms. High sense perception. And that was a picture, I didn't explain it. This is an illustration from my book, Reality Shifts, showing Flatland, which is just the idea that you can have a world of two dimensions that's very flat.
Talk about Mandela
If you push
effect.
a three-dimensional object through it or move it through it like a rose, the inhabitants of Flatland think it's magic. Like it's going from a circle to this weird shape that's like a leaf, and it zooms back into a circle. Kind of like a UFO or something.
I want to hear more about Jiffy Peanut Butter.
And conscious dialogue is really the key to moving forward with the Mandela effect.
You know that guy got some of that.
Biological order comes from information flows. And this, I'm standing next to a researcher. This is Anthony Bell. He was presenting a paper at UC Berkeley about the idea of emergence, submergence, and noise, how brains probably work.
Oh shit, they switched
and I've been working with researchers at Foundations of Mind that are on the same track, that there is no such thing as noise. You might think things are random and it's just stupid and a waste of time.
Like this?
We've got a speaker this weekend that'll be talking about that. It's not the case, and you'll be seeing it. You might experience it this weekend as well. So basically, we're getting the opportunity to communicate, bubble things up from the subconscious, and bring great wisdom in.
So much wisdom.
And here are two more researchers that I'm standing with, the great Walter
Freeman. She banged both of those dudes, especially the guy with the toupee. This curly fella with the toupee got a double portion, guys. Can we check that toupee out? Is there anything better than a bad toupee? What's going on? He just put that shit on his head. He just slapped it on there and said, hey, that'll do. Whatever. That's right, Pendulous. That guy just doesn't give a fuck. Maybe his dome just gets cold.
Freeman, and he said that consciousness exists as an emergent field in the brain.
All those guys get to feel up on those milkies.
And then next to him is Giuseppe Vitiello from Italy. He talks about dissipative quantum models of the brain. So this is that quantum idea again, that we're very much feeling the fields of energy around us. We're connected to ourselves on many levels.
Yeah, what happened? In all those other pictures, you didn't have a gun.
Waves, then you know that your brain, as you're dreaming, it's in a different state.
Maybe that was in the gunless dimension.
Through these every day. So we've got the beta wave of excitement, full sensory awareness, the alpha state of passive awareness and deep relaxation, theta, drowsiness and unconsciousness.
He took the hair sweepings?
And deep sleep of delta. And here's a cartoon from Futurama. This is a quantum power of observation. It was kind of cool. So on the upper left, it shows this is a race. It's a dead heat. And then the next moment, they're checking the electron microscope. And the winner is number 3 in a quantum finish. And then the guy who's placed his bet says, no fair, you change the outcome by measuring it.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
So live in a
this is like this is really what we're dealing with, you know.
Just
can you work together with other people? We build a world together that we all can agree on? Are we able to do that if we're in our ego? Are we going to have to find a better way? So macro scale quantum phenomena.
Stop talking about ego when you spent over an hour complimenting yourself.
Occurs everywhere. That was what I've been talking about. It's not just happening at the Planck scale of, tiny little quantum particles. Consciousness is the essence of how one identifies as oneself amidst a history of interrelatedness that through observing brings forth a world. And there do exist many possible realities. You identify as a conscious observer. This is the 3-part process now of kind of going through this motion of how you select a reality. Quantum phenomena such as entanglement, coherence, and superposition and tunneling then can occur. So you're the observer, you're changing things on a global, universal scale. And you're doing it with your compatriots, with other people, with big hearts and big visions and big mind. And that means you can envision a positive past. You might have been given a diagnosis by a doctor. They might have told you some bad news. You don't have to believe that. You can look in the rearview mirror and see a rainbow. And you can start with that small little...
They told me I had pancreatic cancer, but there's a rainbow. So I don't give a fuck about anything.
Glimmer of hope and build it into something big. And you can do it. I've seen it happen. We'll be hearing about that this weekend. So you can experience no-when with visions of positive futures and positive pasts.
Say love,
This is that thing that the shamans do all the time.
Shamans?
And you can access blissful...
Shamans eat mushrooms and put things in their assholes.
Beautiful everyday reality full of exquisite joys, subtleties, and wisdom.
I can't believe it.
And so I'm going to ask you guys now, I'm going to be handing something out. I've got 2 people helping me. You're going to get an opportunity.
Oh, no. Audience participation. Always
if you don't have a pen, don't worry about it. I'm just going to ask that you're going to get something. Don't open it. Don't open it. Just kind of feel.
Better be a PS fucking triple.
State of love, gratitude, reverence.
Here we go.
And
that's
the job here is just to feel the sense of quiet mind.
She don't know stuff.
Relax your breathing. This is all good. It's just a fun thing. This is absolutely wonderful. And if you want to doodle or write something on it, you can. You don't have to. You just have to think about it. What kind of feelings and images are coming to your mind? Entering into that kind of quantum state here just for a moment, just to have some fun. I'll wait till everybody gets one. I'll just lead a little meditation here.
Oh yeah,
everybody
Dark
got
Wolf.
One. Okay, so now you can just hold it and just kind of, you can hold it in your hands any way you like. You can keep your eyes open or close them if you like. And just feel the presence of this. Kind of feel a sense of
here comes
what
the
this
Satanist part.
Is. And just feeling love, openness, and joy. And whenever you feel like you might be getting some feelings of something and you want to write it down,
right.
Go ahead. You can doodle.
This is very
you can
sad.
Write a word, anything you like. And you can't possibly fail this. This is all good. This is not a test.
I would say for a good deep dick and call and then give her Hanford's number.
This is just good fun.
It's all about love, guys.
And it's private. You don't have to share it. So whenever you want, you can open it and take a look at it. And this will be something, you can share it or not share it with other people, but it's interesting. It's this whole idea that there is no such thing as noise. I mentioned that earlier, and that's part of this quantum experience.
There's no such thing as noise. Then how do you explain sweet guitar licks? Thank you.
There is no such thing as noise. It's just interesting things. So you'll get something, and you can see what it is. And you can have fun with it. And you can share it. Okay. And so why is the Mandela effect happening? I'm just going to be wrapping this up
now we're going to talk about...
And we can move on.
2 minutes left. Now we're going to talk about the Mandela effect.
To questions in a minute. I want you to think about that. And my answer that I mentioned in reality shifts is because. It's that thing you never want to hear from the adults. Like, why? Well, what if you take the word because and make it into 2 words? What if we are the cause? What if we are consciousness?
That's deep, dude.
We are the leaders we've been waiting for. Here's a quote by our Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela is a piece of shit. Why would you quote that dope?
May your choices reflect your hopes,
scumbag.
not your fears. And I love to keep everyone thinking, how good can it get? So thank you so much.
Oh, fuck you. What a waste of time. I'd be pissed. I had nothing to do with anything. Look at all proud of herself.
So we're doing a Q&A.
Yeah.
So we are going to do a Q&A session. If anybody has
again.
questions about what you just heard from Miss Cynthia, if
One
you would like
number
to be a part of the Q&A, we have a microphone set up right over here. Please help yourself. Walk right up to the mic, ask your question, and enjoy. Who's got questions for Cynthia?
No one.
Okay, so my question is,
what a treat.
I'm sure you experienced a lot of Mandela effects. Have you noticed
so many jokes must resist? I'm resisting.
that over time it becomes harder to remember the old way? Like it's like a memory. I call it a memory fuzz, but it's like the new way has more power, it seems like, or it kind of picks on you to remember it the new way. Do you notice anything like that for yourself?
Yeah, sometimes that's true. There can be confusion sometimes, like what is going on? You might be uncertain that you're even experiencing anything. There can be that initial wave of doubt where the new can be so overwhelming at times. But yes, I do feel that sometimes. And then other times, especially if you've noticed a flip-flop where you've had strong emotional involvement, then it's harder to shake what you remember to have been true. But yeah, that's a great observation. Thank you. Thanks for the courage to ask.
I like my channel.
Another brave soul.
My channel.
In your opinion,
where did you come from, you turd?
Dealing with quantum physics and physicists and working real closely with them, you suggested that the macro scale quantum physics could be just around the corner, if you will, or at least evidence thereof in the scientific field. About how long, in your opinion, do you think we are away from that actually being observed?
Oh, I don't know, like 15 minutes?
We're getting it day by day, week by week. So we're getting lots of macroscopic evidence in the realm of quantum computing. That's where, because technology usually leads the way. Just like when we left the Stone Age and moved into the Bronze Age.
Dark Wolf has to go home.
We're definitely in the quantum age because the technology is leading that charge. And so reluctantly, people are dealing with things like what does it mean when you can have entangled diamonds that you can see in your hands and they're totally entangled with each other because scientists are working to build a quantum computer.
That's true.
Yes.
All right, go away, Dark Wolf.
Thank you.
I found it very interesting about the Myers-Briggs.
Oh.
Yes.
I am an
this treat.
INFP.
Yeah.
And I said they're about the same. I also realized that INFPs are either experiencers that have many paranormal. So I'm seeing that correlation. So I just wondered if you wanted to get a little bit deeper on that, if there's anything else. Dumbass! Observe.
Well, I think it's cool because I think these are some of these INFPs, INFJs, these are very small subsets of the general population, or so you would hear. What is it, like 1 or 2% usually? Yet, when you look at the Mandela effect community, these are the majority of the experiencers. So the minority is the majority in a way. And I think
So they're gullible idiots?
It kind of gets into this idea of being like a small child, seeing things innocently, feeling things in a pure state, and maybe being more aware of what's actually happening.
Yeah, is that what you think it is?
I think so.
Personality types a little more aware, a little more open.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the other types. These are all, we need all of them.
Right.
You know, and they all can be experiencers. So just because it's a tendency doesn't mean it's the only ones. Yeah. Thank you.
So I'm thinking back to...
where did they get these people? Was that like a 70s convention or something? This guy, man. That's Greg Brady's shirt, dude.
What you just talked about, and how when you were a very young girl, you would be able to look at a window and think, I'd like the rain to stop, and it would stop. You would think, I would like the rain to start, and it would start. In a way, would that almost be you were causing a Mandela effect of the rain?
And if you could please answer quickly, I really must go. I have children to molest.
Yeah, it's like this ancient shamanic practice of working with the weather.
Tap your foot on the next stall.
Recognition of being in a aligned state within oneself.
Classic.
And communion with nature. So it's, I think it's easier for children in a way to access these levels because no one's yet hopefully told them that you can't do that. So again, what you're able to allow yourself to believe could be possible can be the guiding force in what is possible.
You wasted your life, lady.
Overall, you would say that you think consciousness is probably the cause of most of the Mandela effects?
I don't know, dude. Go have a seat. Have a seat.
What I'm noticing, regardless what theory you might be pursuing, if you go far enough, because if you stop too soon, then you can say it's a simulation. But a simulation of what? What are we simulating? You know, they didn't go far enough. They're like, oh, we're done. We got something, you know, shiny.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Hi.
Thank you for a great talk.
Lady, stop this. Stop this and go home.
A lot of the map changes have just been completely blowing my mind. And we have a map on my daughter's wall that we've both just been looking at, and it's looking completely different from how we remember it. And I'm wondering if you have any theories in terms of like pilots and captains and that sort of thing, and all of the navigation that has to take place, why it's not causing more disruption.
Why, can you rephrase? What do you mean, why is what not causing more disruption?
Well, the changes that we're seeing in the map.
Because you're noticing for sure things are changing.
Yeah, in maps.
Okay, remember I mentioned the
poor lady, she seems very
quantum Zeno
special.
Effect, and that often doctors won't notice, for example, the kidneys have moved, because they've been checking kidneys.
The kidneys did not move.
Anything changed. They're so entangled with that system state that they move with it. And I think that's definitely true for all the navigators as well. When you're close enough to a subject that you're a subject matter expert, you won't notice that this is happening. And it would be easy for you to say that this is not happening. And the Mandela effect is hooey. Because you're only going to notice it in your peripheral vision. If
Mandela effect is like the perfect thing to fucking be a con man about. You know what I mean? Because if you say no, it was always fucking it was never Stouffer's stovetop stuffing. And then they could say, "Oh, well, you're not just from our dimension. It's the perfect rube catcher."
Physics is having something to do with it, and I believe it is. Therefore, anything that you're focused on, to the point that you are that subject matter expert, it's going to be a lot harder for you to witness these Mandela effects. Therefore, those pilots, those navigators are going to be just fine. To them, it didn't change.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'll be honest, if anybody I want to get to download, it's my doctor.
Yeah.
This bitch wants to get off stage so quick.
I'd like to...
You can lift it up. Okay.
I'd like to understand your perspective on when one has more of a range of known effects in their life coming in, as well as interacting with the observer effect, and if you see this getting much more ramped up in the future as people observe more.
Point of privilege. Someone needs to just start yelling
know that it exists and test the boundaries of what consciousness can do, and if there might be future studies into the equation that it requires for someone to understand how this could be used for good.
Huh?
That's like 3 questions in
Sorry.
Very deep. Okay, well, I'll tackle the one about are things changing, and with all this influx, could someone see, as more people come on board, could we see an expansion? I think yes. I think we are seeing that. I think that is what we're noticing with that graph I showed, that so-called tipping point happens, and we're getting that effect. So there's a grand awakening happening on the planet. Right now, people are laughing about the Mandela effect. It's a joke, you know, because if you are that subject matter expert, you could pick on that and say, well, this is not happening. I know for sure, because to them it's not. But your question then goes, can you rephrase the other part? Because it went further.
Oh yeah, like as more people observe it. And
this guy, I've seen this guy before. This guy's a fucking loon. This guy's with some other asshole about Mandela effect.
Want to understand how it works, and science takes it to the next level and understands how this whole mechanism works.
Helium loafers.
You think it can be used for good nature?
Oh, definitely. Yes. This is, I think, the possible solution to most of the so-called insolvable problems on our planet at this time. So, yeah, I think this has all sorts of range and ability to be extraordinarily useful in every possible way. Thank you.
All right.
No, you got to hear him talk. He's a fucking loon. It barely makes sense.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Cynthia Sue Larson.
I was a hot dog fan. Don't you ever come back. Sorry, guys. I thought that would actually be about the Mandela effect. Turns out I was wrong. I was really, really, really wrong. But whatever. What can you do? But I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for coming, everybody, and watching all that shit. And hey, I'll see you Friday or something.